I think I've said hello to everybody else. I can start again. So basically, welcome to the Global Chambers session. We are talking about Germany and UAE this evening, right? So no matter where you are on your journey, we will pick you up today. This is the very first Globinar.
Yes.
Globinar,
Right.
to focus on the German market. So as far as I know, I might be making that up. So Kathryn, Frank, and myself, we all speak German. So if you come from Germany and you're feeling a little bit insecure about your German, we can flip in and out of German and English. We're kind of cool like that. And then, but most of the time we'll be speaking in English, right? So please stick around to the end because we would love to know which other German market specific topics you'd be interested in. Okay, so that will be at the end. But first of all, we're going to crack on because we have a lot to cover and time is short. So tonight we will be talking about the business opportunities and of course risks of business between German-speaking countries, which we will refer to as DACH, which is German, Austria and Switzerland, and the United Arab Emirates or UAE. Okay, so for those of you that have yet to familiarize yourself with the UAE, I can share some key facts with you. I am not an expert in UAE, so for me, I kind of had to do this to get up to speed, and I know that I'm not the only one here who has no idea. So I'm going to help you with that. So key facts, there's going to be no presentation slides, so please make notes if you find anything fascinating. Emirates, the UAE is comprised of 7 Emirates: Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharia, I don't know whether I'm saying that, Oman. Oh, maybe you can help me.
Sharjah, Ajman,
Yeah,
Fujairah,
yeah.
Al Ain, and there's another one, right?
Ras Al Khaimah.
Ras Al Khaimah. Ras Al
Yeah.
Khaimah. Absolutely. Ras Al Khaimah is the other one. Right.
Fabulous. So the capital is Abu Dhabi, is the capital city, and Arabic is the official language, but English is widely spoken and of course used in business. Islam is the official religion, but all of the other religions are tolerated, and the UAE is a federal elective monarchy. I couldn't tell you what that is, but somebody else I'm sure here can. The UAE is a significant oil producer and also a major trade and transportation hub. So you will notice that I did not share any slides. This has been a conscious decision so that the focus is on you, the audience. Okay. We don't want this to be a sales show. We want this to be a community of practice, and we're here to get to know each other, support each other, and really inspire each other. And presentation slides, in my experience, and I talked to Kathryn and Frank about this, tend to alienate the audience, and we don't want that. That's the last thing we want. So there will be no recording, but of course you can connect with all 3 of us, Kathryn Read, Frank Beckmann, and myself, Corinne Wilhelm, via Global Chambers community, and of course via LinkedIn. So I will be posting a link later to the WhatsApp group for this German speaking group. I'll start briefly, just tell you who I am. I'm a corporate communication coach based in Berlin. I'm working with listed and SMEs in tech, in engineering and finance, mostly agile teams working remotely across cultures and time zones. And this evening, I'm the organizer. And then, unless anything goes wrong, of course, then I'm not the organizer anymore, and the facilitator. So I will be making sure that you get a chance to get all of your questions answered. That's why I've only given them 10 to 15 minutes to talk each. So I would ask you to make a note of those questions that you have in the chat, and we will answer as many as we can in real time this evening. The rest we'll get back to you later. So, you won't be left in the lurch. And of course, we'll have future events too. So I personally have no experience of UAE. I'm not going to pretend to know something I don't. But I'm very interested in the German market. So this leads me on very nicely to introducing our 2 experts this evening who have given up their time to give back to the Global Chambers community. So I'll start with Kathryn Read. She's an international sales and marketing consultant with almost 30 years experience developing niche products in emerging markets based in Austria, but like me, she's from the UK. So Kathryn helps small and medium-sized companies to break through international barriers, creating successful entrepreneurs and a thriving global marketplace. And Kathryn firmly believes that business is done between people, right? And therefore places her focus on building strong relationships that build a strong foundation, a solid foundation for doing business. So Kathryn helps companies to decide which market would be the best to act as a springboard for their expansion into Asia. Her strength is building these strong business relationships across these cultures and managing teams across different time zones and cultures. So her superpower, I think, is helping SMEs to help internationally and strategically into international markets, not just, oh, can you sell us this? No, she does it strategically. So you want to check out her Foodie Friday posts on LinkedIn, and her free international expansion guide is really excellent. I would definitely recommend you to get that. It's like a 101 of choosing your expansion area. So Kathryn will be giving you some core insights at the beginning and some strategic international expansion tips and considerations before we take some questions, and then I'll hand over to Frank, which brings me on to Frank. Okay, so Frank, like me, is currently based in Berlin, Germany, and is founder and CEO of GVI Investment Advisory. And he's on a mission to boost success rates of startups and de-risk investors. He works with startups and scale-ups as well as VCs and family businesses from various countries and cultures. He's got country partners in the US, India, Dubai, Israel, and China. So another parallel, Frank and I have both grown up with entrepreneurial parents. So this evening we can take advantage of his industry experience of over 25 years leading international companies either as their CFO or CEO. Frank has been involved in international projects for all kinds of wonderful companies, and he's a popular keynote speaker. So I'm going to just end up by saying that he is currently the Senator and German Chair of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, and also the President of the German chapter of the Asia CEO Club. So that's who you have in front of you. Aren't you guys lucky? So now I would like to hand the stage over to Kathryn, who is going to give you a 10 to 15 minute insight into how to start international expansion and make it work.
That's very scary. Now is probably the time to admit that I am actually no longer, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in the Emirates, but the Emirates was one of the markets that I actually started out my business, and I've done a lot of business in the region over the years. So I think that for German companies, or maybe to go back to my introduction a little bit, just very briefly, thank you for the intro, Coco. I would say, yes, I'm a Brit. I've been living in Austria now for over 25 years. So I'm kind of very much between the cultures, as it were, and I've spent a lot of that time traveling for work. As I said, I started out my career in the UK in the automotive industry, in heavy duty automotive. So things like crane spare parts, which is how I ended up spending quite a lot of my time in the Emirates and also in Saudi, which in the 1990s, as a woman in automotive, it wasn't that easy. And our main competitor, at least in Saudi, was the main competitor of our distribution partner was actually the family Bin Laden, who at the time were not so famous, but these days pretty much a household name for all the wrong reasons. So for me, these days, I mostly focus on consumer goods, especially food and drinks. And I think that the Emirates is one of those markets which is really booming for the food and drinks industry because most FMCG type products are imported into the region. It's not an agricultural region for obvious reasons from a climate perspective. And so it's a region that's very interesting for food and drinks brands. But what I would also say is that you need to ask yourself, as a German or Austrian exporter, are you ready for these kind of non-EU exports? Because if not, you have to ask yourself that question. Are you ready to adapt your products and adapt your working processes to the regulations and norms? Often the UAE is seen as a kind of it's seen as a kind of light introduction to the Arab world, if you like, because it's such a cosmopolitan market and because it's such a gateway hub into other markets of the region, whether that be North Africa, Iran, also into Pakistan, but also markets like Lebanon and the rest of the Middle East. But it is still a market that's part of the GCC collaboration. And so you have to keep to their regulations and norms, be that in terms of labeling, paperwork, recipe, and so on. And the second question that I would suggest that you ask yourself very carefully before you decide to actually actively try to enter into the market is, do you have the cultural competence in-house to deal with a relationship first based culture such as you're faced with in the region? And I think that some of the things in the past where I've seen colleagues or bosses of mine really struggle in the region are things like the attitude to time that is more flexible than, for example, a German would see it. The attitude to discussing difficult topics, where often this is done in a more roundabout way. And that can be quite frustrating if you've not dealt with that before and you're not used to that idea of people saying no to you in a very, let's say, in a very oblique manner. What else did I want to mention? I think if you're looking at higher context relationships and you're looking at cultural topics for the UAE, then the person you should be following on LinkedIn is Corinne Wilhelm, who is based in the region, and she's also a cultural expert for the region. So she's certainly one of the best people to talk about for that. But if you're talking about food and beverage, the advantage of the Emirates is the fact you've got a really wealthy consumer base, and they're focused on things like food security. So from the DACH region, we really have that home advantage of being able to offer very safe products into a market that has a stable currency, where there's a good supermarket and retail infrastructure, and the online side of that is also growing rapidly, and where you can use those markets or the Emirates as a springboard via companies like Spinneys or Carrefour. You can use them as a springboard for the rest of the region. And I think that's very important. And of course, there are specifics that you have to meet. Things like if you're selling meat or dairy, then you need to have halal, obviously, because it's a Muslim country, a majority Muslim country, or you have to have actual expiry dates on your products rather than simply a use by date or a sell by date. It has to be a hard expiry date. But those are quite specific use cases. So if you are looking at selling your consumer goods or your supermarket products into the Emirates, what I would say is some of the categories that are really booming at the market at the moment are things like free from all different kinds of gluten-free or free from all kinds of allergens, sports and fitness drinks, generally sports fitness products, supplements, those kind of things, and also soft drinks, especially better for you kind of functional soft drinks, or let's say, no alcohol alternative drinks, because obviously alcohol is a sensitive topic in the region. And I think that those are some of the kind of most popular categories that are really booming at the moment. But I know that this is a region where, if you're working in the food and beverage industry, then it's one of the fastest growing regions. And of course, the main food fair, the Gulf Food, is one of the most important trade fairs for food on a global stage these days. And I think that was what I wanted to introduce you to, as some general themes to think about before I think Frank goes into some more details on his topics. Thank you. If you've got any specific questions for me, you can either ask them now or drop them in the chat or message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Excellent. I love it. People can clap, in these Globinars. It's not against the rules. Through a little bit of appreciation, all good. I think that gives us a chance to ask some questions. So let me see. How come I can't see your...
I do have a first question,
Yeah,
Kathryn.
Frank, go for it.
Talking about F&B, which is your expertise, tell me a bit about the success of the Dubai chocolate, which we all know.
Oh, yeah.
Dubai chocolate is one of those kind of accidental hits, isn't it? So I forget the name of the young couple who kind of created this product, and they created it literally as a side gig, or they have a chocolate company that they have as a side gig, and they created this chocolate product with ganache inside, so that you've got that creaminess from the pistachios as combined with the crunch. And then, because driven by influencers on TikTok, and then of course on other social media platforms, it literally went viral and people were buying it up. But unfortunately, the term Dubai chocolate wasn't protected in any kind of IP way, or the recipe isn't connected. So whilst they have had some good results for their company, obviously, they're not suddenly multimillionaires because almost anybody else can produce that chocolate. So I'm sure at Easter you'll have seen, Lindt has a version of it. Aldi of course has a knockoff. But they have also been hit by claims. There is a guy in Germany who is actually the official importer of the original company who produces this. He sued them in the German courts and won. So they are only allowed to call it Dubai style chocolate. I think they're not allowed to call it Dubai chocolate. But the thing about it is that the hype for Dubai chocolate is pushing the world price for pistachios through the roof.
Oh my God.
And I think if you looked at Christmas markets in the last year, across the whole of the German-speaking world, then Dubai chocolate was certainly the front runner. And it was selling out faster than small artisanal companies could actually make it.
What is amazing with that is that this is the first trend which started in Dubai, the Emirates, and that may happen in future more. So far, we have most trends coming up from US and then coming over to Europe and other countries. But here it changes a bit the game, and that's very interesting to observe.
Yeah, very cool.
And I think it's also that thing of the world of the internet changes all kinds of things really for lots of small companies. And that's a lesson that lots of smaller German companies can also learn, that in today's business world, you don't have to be Nestle or you don't have to be Siemens to be successful in international markets. There's a meme somewhere out there that says, on the internet, nobody knows that you're a dog. It's people don't know whether, they just look at it and you have your brand and the next brand is maybe a medium-sized brand with several $1 million of turnover, but just somebody doing an internet search doesn't really know that necessarily if you have a good presence, and especially if you have good social media presence these days. So really highlights the importance of that, even if this one wasn't exactly planned. So yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Any more questions for Kathryn? Can't see anybody.
Hey, Kathryn, this is Pankaj. So last 3 years we are Global Chamber member, so we know you, but probably many meetings we join, but we didn't. But I'm a money man, funny guy, money man. So if you are looking for funding, so we can help. So I visited Dresden last year in June. We are a semi member. So, but definitely we are joining World Economic Forum, Davos, hopefully next year. So we will visit soon, and also Germany, like Munich is our gateway to Charlotte. So when we are using Lufthansa, I love it. So we use Munich and direct to Charlotte. So we live in North Carolina. So yes, we know Frank and we know a lot of Global Chamber member. So if you are any of your like a network looking for funding, we can help. And we are opening DIFC Dubai, our global headquarters. Next week, I'm joining there for global conference. So we will update you through email and all. Unfortunately, I don't have any LinkedIn. So I have X. Anyone has a X, you can look into it. So unfortunately, I cannot fight with a LinkedIn. So, I gave up. But yes, when I have money, I will see them in the court. So thank you.
Right.
Well, Kathryn, I just want to make a comment about Dubai chocolate. I was just in Dubai, and I want to thank, Global Chamber for introducing me to a couple contacts in Dubai. Very valuable experience. And I was at the airport. Everybody was saying, I want 20 bars of Dubai chocolate. And I was like, what is that? And then I was seeing it flying off the shelf. And I'm like, well, if people are buying that, that must be good. So of course, I bought some, brought it home. My son told me, wow, I'm really looking forward to this Dubai chocolate. How did you know I want it? And it's because of all the influencer that's actually showing up in North America. So I have to say, I don't really watch social media about what's happening, but this is what's happening. When you go to the airport, when you see people buying, you just go into that craze that you're missing out if you don't buy it, right? And I can tell you, people are just basically the cabinet was empty, after people start buying those chocolates. So this is just how things are. But I just want to share, and I also want to thank Global Chamber for introducing me to a couple contacts at UAE. So one of the things I wanted to ask, you did mention that you were living at UAE before. Now you're not, and you said there's some nuances in terms of doing business there. So I wanted to get your experience, ideas, and feedback on some of those nuances that you've picked up while you were there.
Maybe let's let Frank go through, because I think that this is a topic that we could discuss at the end of the questions. It's maybe not such a specific question for me. I mean, the reason that I'm not so focused on the Emirates at the moment is simply because in the last years, because of the work experience that I had, I kind of got thrown into, I spent a lot of time doing business in Turkey and also with like Lebanon and the kind of Levant side of the peninsula. But I was also doing an awful lot of business in China and Korea, as well as in Southeast Asia. And that just didn't leave me with the time to focus so much on the Emirates. So my experience of doing business in the region is based on more or less 20 years ago. So like cultural changes that have taken place in that time, I've only been there for business 4 or 5 times in the last 6 or 7 years, which compared to other regions is not that much at all.
Okay. So that's a great segue. Thank you for that, Kathryn. So I would like to welcome Frank onto the stage, and we will hear more specifically now, not about international expansion as a whole, but specifically now about the UAE. So Frank, please come and share your nuggets of knowledge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Coco, for moderating that, and thanks for the Global Chamber to enabling this Globinar. First of all, telling you how I come to this region. I'm based here in Berlin, and I worked, as Coco said, 25 years on C-level in international companies, also in China. And then I became consultant in digital parking and mobility. And within that, my first assignment was in Dubai. So I was 2 weeks working, consulting a company in Dubai, a local one. And I was amazed by that dynamic melting pot of highly motivated business people from all corners of the world. Since then, I'm regularly there once or twice a year. 4 years ago, I became member of the digital advisory board of a publicly listed company in Bahrain. So I got a lot of insights also how these companies are working. And I was also surprised to see how professional they are in terms of strategy, leadership, organization, governance, everything. That is because most of these guys, especially the national people, they studied abroad at one of the best universities in the US and in UK normally. So they really have a high level of excellence, which they do there. So we only can underestimate them. Some 3.5 years ago, I founded GBI Investment Advisory with a mission to increase the success rate of startups. So I'm working with startups, VCs, family offices, investors all over the world. Now, why is UAE on my map or on my focus? Actually, it's a bit plan B at the moment because there are a lot of people saying that I might come a crash in the US due to some guy who throws around with tariffs and other stuff. So if that will come into reality, that means also that the markets in Europe and Asia will suffer. The only market I see, which is the most stable one economically and politically, is the Middle East, and especially UAE. So that's why I'm at the moment every month there to build, first of all, a trusted network. And Kathryn already mentioned that's very important to build trust. And of course, to create business opportunities, because there are quite a lot of business opportunities over there. I'm not focusing at the moment so much on the German UAE relation. I just going into UAE specifics more because I've seen most of our participants here are from the US or from other countries, maybe also due to the time zones. So let me shortly tell you some wrong myths we have. Because the media, and there was an analysis saying that about 50% of all media coverage about the Middle East is negative. Yeah, it comes with stereotypes and all this stuff. And that is what a lot of people believe at the moment. So one of them is, oh, Dubai is only a tourist place. They only party, they have no tax. So it's kind of paradise. In a certain way, it's true. If you work hard, you need also to have some good fun in the evening, but that's not the full truth. Another one is they have poor legal protection. Locals are always in favor, which is not true. They have international legal system and law. I know a lot of Western companies who filed a claim against national locals and won the case. So absolutely not true. You're absolutely protected from that point of view. Some say, well, it's not a solid economy, it's still dependent and financed by oil and gas, which is not true, especially in Dubai. I think the income, the gross domestic product from oil and gas is below 10% by now. So they have diversified, they have built their own ecosystems, and they are accelerating in that perspective. Another thing is, oh, they are exploiting workforce from poor Asian countries. This is also not true. Of course, they have a lot of Bangladeshis on the construction sites, and most taxi drivers in Dubai are from Pakistan. So I talked to some and asked, how do you live here? Do you like it? What is your stake on that one? And they said, well, I live in an apartment with 5 other taxi drivers from Pakistan. We have 1 room. But this is fine because we are all together. We are not alone. It's absolutely fine. But here I have a job. In Pakistan, I don't have. From this money I earn, I finance my family and the education of our children and our grandparents. I couldn't do so in Pakistan. So they have a lot of benefits there. So it's not true that they are really exploited. They are used and they have their own advantage. Otherwise, they wouldn't come. They are not forced to come, right? And another aspect is sometimes, Germany, EU is not really interesting for the GCC, which is wrong. Because Germany and the DACH region still stands for high quality, for engineering, for industry 4.0, the US for AI and whatever. So everybody has specifics and they are fully aware of the expertise and competence we have, and they are very open to learn from that one and to collaborate. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell the myth we have. Now, going to UAE, they push a lot at the moment for new technologies, especially for AI. They have with G42, a large company financed by the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Tanoon, and they invest in a lot of things, especially everything regarding AI. And Abu Dhabi wants to become the first AI-governed government in 2030 in the world. So they are all digitalized already, all governments. You can do everything digitally. Yeah, they even have mystery customers to check if the ministries are customer friendly. They have KPIs. How fast are they serving the customers? Are the customers happy? They have customer happiness centers everywhere. So they focus very much on the customer, and they are very advanced on that one. This is something which we in Germany, I think, can learn, because our customer friendliness is a bit way behind, let's say, US and other parts of the world. So they have an excellent infrastructure and everything. Yeah, it's really wonderful. They work with visions. So if you want to do something in UAE, you need to know the vision. There's a vision 2070 with 4 pillars. You need to know what they are focusing on. And if you want to do business, if it aligns to one of these issues in the vision, which is very important to them. Yeah, great events like the GITEX, like Investopia, like the AIM in Abu Dhabi, like the Abu Dhabi Global House Week. They're family office events. So if you want to make business with them, you go to events and connect to the people. Build trusted relationship. Don't start with your business immediately. Start with socializing, because they want to know you, they want to learn you, they want to understand you before you come with business. And that's the way to build a relation and to build a business in that region. They have a lot of incentives. At the moment, there's a program, Make It in the Emirates. They want to attract manufacturing or assembly or parts of the manufacturing in the UAE to increase their GDP and the economy. So they have a lot of incentives for that one. So if you're an SME especially, you can benefit from a lot of incentives and a lot of support from that side. And the UAE is positioning them. It's not a really very big market. For some parts it is, but this is also a hub. So from the UAE, you can go easily to Pakistan, avoiding a lot of risk being in Pakistan yourself. And they have very good relation to Pakistan. The same applies to India, other parts of Asia, but also towards Africa. They have very good relations to a lot of countries, and they really help you, let's say, to get into the markets from the UAE. So you have a safe environment in the UAE and can expand into other regions from here. Yeah, and due to the excellent infrastructure, that is quite easy. Yeah, you get golden visas at the moment, you get talents, you get workforce, you have low tax. So it's really a place to be at the moment if you want to expand. It's a safe environment. I just have been 2 weeks ago on an event in the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic is one of the best world-class clinics after the Mayo Clinic in the US. Most of you know that. They have 10 years ago built one of the most modern clinics in Abu Dhabi with Mubadala Health together. So they have a world-class clinic there. If you go there, you have all infrastructure, as I say, really to make it interesting, and have also with your families, if you go there, a really safe place. So I could go on a lot, but I think I stop at this moment and rather would like to have your questions and go into a discussion.
Thank you, Frank. That's wonderful. Thank you. So I can't see anybody with questions. Come on, let's give Frank and Kathryn some questions here.
I was just going to piggyback a little bit on what Frank was saying and mention that, I mean, Frank mentioned that Pakistan is an excellent springboard from, it's an excellent market to springboard into from the Emirates, but also Iran. And it can be very, very difficult to do business directly with Iran. Partly for regulatory, partly for cultural reasons, but mostly for geopolitical and financial reasons. But if you go via the Emirates, especially if you go via one of the free ports like Dubai, then you can cut out a lot of the risk and make sure that you're actually getting paid. And of course, the dirham is pegged to the dollar, which is always helpful if you're doing international business. Although being pegged to the dollar at the moment is not necessarily so helpful from the Eurozone, but generally it's pegged to the dollar. Yeah.
It
Ellen,
gives
you
you a
have
certain
a
degree of security, doesn't it, at least? Yeah.
Ellen, you have a question?
Yeah, Frank, I really appreciate your insight on this. Since I just came back from there and hear a lot of I guess their land economic talking about the future, what they're doing. AI is a huge thing they're heavily invested in right now. It seems like even the backbone, like the blockchain crypto, that's going to be the next thing that's on their platform, and sustainability. So these are all like topics that they were talking about, the future visions, and it seems like it's not too far away where every other country is falling behind in terms of what they're trying to do, because not a lot of the financial institutions have those things ready, set up. It's, so they're ready to move forward on it. So can you give me some idea of, seems like if they want to do something, as long as they have the approval or the direction from the top, then they're ready to move forward and they can do that. What's the investment opportunity available right now? When I was there, everybody was telling me, it's a great time to come, it's booming, and they're moving a new airport down to the south. There's so many different opportunities. I was overwhelmed. So if you can sort of give me sort of like an overview of what your thought process is regarding that.
Yes, Helen, thanks very much. You're absolutely right. Concerning AI, I think we have to discern that on the one hand, you have coders and you have new developments like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or whatever. What the UAE are very strong into creating use cases. Yeah, like the government use cases. In the UAE, the governments develop innovation and incorporate innovation first, and they challenge the private economy. That's actually the way of developing and accelerating. So having Abu Dhabi aiming at an AI-powered government by 2030 is a huge progress. But learning from that one, they will also transfer their knowledge to other parts and encourage the private industry to come along and to compete on that level. So there are a lot of opportunities, of course, on the one hand, being a startup with AI solutions, which helps them because it's still a pretty young region. Yeah. So a lot of things they copied from other countries and build in their own. But there's still a lot of need, let's say, in health tech, for instance, with AI. Health tech is a very important topic. Like Kathryn said, about food and beverage restaurants, about prop tech in real estate, for instance, about logistics and mobility. Even though they are far ahead, today they announced that they have autonomous driving from Abu Dhabi airport, which you can order via an app. Yeah, so they are pushing, but still they are looking for better solutions based on AI. And to give you a short story, when I was there 2 weeks ago, I met the group CEO of G42. And he said that in their board meetings, they always have an AI agent already. And having an AI agent in the board meeting has increased the quality of board meetings significantly. And now it's mandatory for all their portfolio companies to use AI agents in board meetings. I haven't heard that here in the West. So the way how they apply technology, building use cases, learning from them, this is really outstanding, where we can learn from them. But basic innovations in AI, they are very keen to have that from other countries. So whenever you have some solutions which are AI powered, of course, have to check if it's already there or not. And if it's not there, you have a great chance that that really becomes a great business opportunity there.
Frank, if I may, this is Peter Graybick, and we office out of Washington, D.C. I work in trade and project finance. You mentioned they use AI in board meetings. Can you elaborate a little bit on what the function, purpose, a little more about the use case? What is it doing in board meetings? I'm very curious.
I haven't been in the board meeting, Peter, so it's a bit gray area. But I asked him, and he told me they feed the AI agent with all documents which all others receive for the board meeting. And of course, all information about activities of the company. So when it comes to the board meeting, they can ask the AI agent, what do you think of that one? What do you recommend? Ask us questions, and they can reflect on that one. And of course, much faster and a different quality. And I think this is what brings the board meetings on a higher level. So it's not just drinking coffee and changing some topics. Really, then quality, they got challenged by that one. They can ask everything and get an immediate answer. So there don't need to be an interruption. So this is what I learned so far. Well, I would be keen to have that experience myself, to be honest. Give it a try, Pete.
So I guess things like checking on compliance or checking facts and stuff, it's all a lot more seamless because they can just pull it up.
Absolutely,
Nice.
absolutely. Yeah.
Very slick, like that. Okay.
Hey, Coco, this is Pankaj again. We travel all over the world last 3 years. Next week, I am joining in Dubai. So I am from India, but I'm a US citizen. Can you hear me?
I can.
So the advantage is UAE. So all these countries, UAE is centrally managed by the government. What Frank is explained, I am the regular user. I born in India, now here in 30 years, working for the global market. I know each and every country, what is their problem. Even I visited Dresden, I know what is German problem. So all the European problem. So, so Frank, you are absolutely right. Centrally manage everything. So there is almost zero corruption. In India, if anyone in India don't mind, I'm also Indian too, but I have American passport. I'm fed up, and finally I block the Indian market as well as many countries. We are working with a multiple investor. You can check your emails. All the BlackRock, Khosla Venture, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and double digit. The problem is my investor told many countries, I don't want to name here, people will be angry with me. They clearly told me no more on of these countries. So whatever doesn't matter. So yes, Frank, you are absolutely right. That's why we are opening DIFC Dubai, our global headquarters, and then Menlo Park and New York. So working here in US market, it's very easy to work with all this. I learned 4 points from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger: work ethics, acknowledgement, reciprocate, and finally integrity. These 4 points are missing anywhere in the whole world. Okay, so please learn. This is my humble request. If you want to do global business, learn all these 4 points. from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. I learned it, we followed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you
mentioned
very
a good
much.
point there, actually. Maybe some of our audience would like to know what the challenges are of working with Germany. Who would be interested in finding out more about that? Nobody. Okay.
Eduardo has a question.
Rhetorical question, I thought, but go ahead.
Okay. No, it wasn't a rhetorical question. You would be interested. Okay, so Eduardo would be interested. Is that worth us going into very quickly? I mean, Kathryn, is that something you'd feel comfortable answering?
Depends what kind of industry you're looking at learning about, Eduardo.
Well,
Right.
hey, Kathryn. Hi, everyone. Well, actually, I raised my hand because I wanted to make myself available for any type of sourcing in the Mexican market. They mentioned food security in that region, and I think there's a lot of possibilities sourcing, even investing in land for food production for that particular market. So I'm really interested in hearing Frank's opinion about that. And of course, Kathryn, if there's any possibility for a foreign company investing in Mexico for food production with the sole purpose of guaranteeing that food security in that particular region. Is that a market? Is that a business, or is that only an idea? Thank you.
Can you define what you mean by food security, please, Eduardo?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think Kathryn mentioned it, or Frank, I'm not sure, that they mentioned that, I think was Kathryn. They mentioned that there's a great focus in food security in the region, right? Meaning that they have to import a lot of that food stuff, grains, and production because the lack of local production, I can imagine. So Mexico, for example, exports a lot of wheat, a lot of grains, chickpeas to that region. It's been going on for many years. But there's alfalfa, for example. There's some other commodities or other foodstuffs that.
Can I just stop you there 1 second? Because I'm really conscious of the time.
Okay.
I'd love to talk to you later, Eduardo, about
Sure.
maybe a Mexico-German thing, if that's okay with everyone else, because I'd like to stay on track with the UAE. Is that very rude? Is that okay with
No,
people?
it's fine. I just, if I can get an opinion regarding the UAE about this food security.
Okay,
Great. Thank you.
sure. Okay, so I'm just trying to keep it contained, if you don't mind. Okay, brilliant. So in terms of, oh, he changed his picture. In terms of working with Germany, I mean, what would you say, Kathryn, that people maybe don't realize about Germany? I mean, we touched on this very briefly, I think, when you mentioned very rightly that the UAE is a very relationship first culture. Here in Germany, it's very kind of performance first, I would say. You know, it's a different focus. So would you like to add something to that for me?
I think if I was going to, bearing in mind that quite a number of the participants today are based in North America, I would probably say that compared to the US, Germany is also slightly a relationship-focused market, but not nearly as extreme as the UAE. So if you're looking to do business in Germany, then people would still, you know, they would still want a little bit of small talk at the beginning before they dive into the real work, but efficiency would be the order of the game, I would say. And I think the other thing that people often underestimate if they're working with Germans, I mean, this also depends a little bit where you're based for your home market, but Germans have a very systematic approach to their way of doing business. And I know that English-speaking companies don't always work in such a systematic way. And that can lead them to have certain conflict potential when they're working together with Germans, if they're not following what they said they would do, if they don't do things at the times when they said that they would do. Those are the kind of things that Germans see as being a quality KPI, if you like, or a sign of reliability. If you do things at the time and in the quality level that you promised that you would do them. And the other thing that I think you really need to know about working together with Germans is that compared to hard to make a general statement on it, but compared to North Americans, Germans tend to give quite direct feedback. Although, you know, it's a European market, so there's not quite such a brutal focus on, if you're making a presentation, give me the summary of the presentation and then give me your argumentation. I think if you're coming from a German perspective, you would have more of a kind of Descartesian approach to things, where you would give the arguments for how you've arrived at your presentation conclusion, and then you would give the conclusion at the end. Whereas if I was going to present it for the US, I would probably say, this is what I think you should do, and this is why. And if the boss had turned his brain off after that, then it wouldn't really matter. So I think those are probably the main things.
Yeah, interesting.
Let me maybe add 2 points for that one, Kathryn. It's very interesting. I think that systematic and reliable approach goes very good along with UAE, because they also think very systematic. What's very interesting, what I increasingly observe in UAE, is that they go for execution very fast. Don't talk much. Go into execution. You're measured by that. Come with KPIs, and that's it. And that's not the case in Germany so much, because we have so much bureaucracy that we always start first to sort things out, to structure, governance, talking, whatever, making agreements and all that stuff. And it takes quite a long to get the car on the road, and that needs to change if you work with UAE. Yeah, execution, it's everything about execution. Being fast, you're measured by that.
That's true. I would like to mention one thing. I'm working with some engineering companies, and suppliers have been thrown out or removed from the preferred supplier list because they're nothing to do with their product, but because they're not conforming to the safety requirements. So be very careful about conforming to those. It's not like a nice to have. It can actually get you thrown out, and they won't look at you again in a hurry. So do take that quite seriously. And timing, I think, is a very crucial thing. If you're going to be running late, tell them. Don't just deliver late, because that really gets their back up. So this punctuality piece is definitely the real deal.
I think that all kinds of things that, and this is not specifically connected with the UAE as such in any way, shape or form, but things like GDPR, compliance, all those kind of issues that are often treated just simply differently in different markets. I'm not saying that different markets don't have compliance regulations, they do. I think that whenever you go into a new market, you need to look at how does that market define compliance in terms of gift giving, in terms of, in terms of what you can agree with people. If I go to a supplier meeting at, for example, at Kaufland in Germany, I can hardly even bring them samples of my products because they're not allowed to accept gifts, and they're that paranoid about being accused of being bribed by one of their suppliers compared to another one. Whereas in other cases, companies are quite specific on their company culture. There's a legal framework, yes, but then there's also the company culture framework. And I think that it's one thing to generalize that Germans like things to be efficient in terms of timekeeping, in terms of what is the process, and define it and keep to it. But that's just the general Germanic level of things, and that there will be differences between, for example, Hamburg and the south of Germany, which is much more like Austria, which tends to be a bit more laid back about such things in many ways. Austrians have a regulation and they have 5 exceptions to it. So, you know, I think that all of those kind of nuances, they're not general rules that you can apply, because even within like organizations, one company is going to have a different company culture than another one, and that's the same across all your markets.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So it is a 1957. I would like you all, if you don't mind, just to put a few words of feedback into the chat for me. I'd really love you all to do this, because this is the first event. We have lots to learn. We want to be the best. So
Yes.
tell us what we can improve. Tell us what you would like more of. Tell us which topics you would be interested in. And whilst you're doing that, I would like to extend a huge thank you to Frank and to Kathryn for sharing their time, their knowledge, their experience, and their insights with a big round of applause. Fantastic. It's really great being a part of Global Chambers. And if you can get involved as a presenter, if you want to contact me, if you have a topic that would be interesting that you know a lot about, get in touch with me. I put my email in the chat earlier and my LinkedIn, I believe, as well. And we have a WhatsApp group. Now, did I put that in earlier? I think I might have to repeat it for the people who came in a bit later. I will do that now. Did I do that? No, did I? Hang on. Here we go. I will do it again, so that if anyone hasn't joined the WhatsApp group, there are a whole series of WhatsApp groups. Oh, crap. Sorry. Oh, goodness me. I didn't do it right. I do it again. There we go. Here we go. This is the WhatsApp link. Feel free to join there. And I would say we have a couple of minutes left. I don't really have any time for any more questions, but if you have any topics, please leave them in the chat. I will be checking all of those things, and I will be connecting with you on LinkedIn. And I would say if anyone's got anything to say or ask, you have another 2 minutes. 1 minute.
Just a quick question. Is there a next Globinar scheduled? Is a date already set?
We don't have a date yet set, because we're kind of marching into the summer break now. But yeah, we will keep that in mind. We'll have a think. I wanted to look at the topics that people put in the chat. So far, there's very little feedback. So I'd love more.
I thought it was brilliant. The experienced folks talking. Kathryn and Frank are amazing, and of course you are as well. And what I loved was, from an American perspective, but with a Germanic background myself, to hear Germany, UAE, 2 different countries from my own, and the perspectives between the two. That's very interesting and very valuable, and I think we need to do a lot more of that. So thank you for the idea and the creativity and the leadership in putting this together. I think it's going to spur some really fun things.
Thank you. Fantastic. We'll have a wonderful evening, everyone. Remember, you're amazing. This is a beautiful community. Reach out if you need anything. Get involved, get active, get curious, and I'll see you at the next event.
Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you for joining.